There's a simple thing as a leader, and you know this having been in the military. Trump wouldn't know it because he's a draft-dodging coward. But anyway, it's this. A war is justified if you're willing to send your kids. Because how can you send somebody else's kids to a war if you want?
A political debate about Iran took an unexpected turn when the conversation shifted away from military strategy and toward a question that rarely receives serious attention. Who should bear the personal cost of war? What began as a discussion over foreign policy quickly became a broader challenge to the way powerful figures defend military action. During the exchange, one participant projected confidence by suggesting privileged insight into the thinking of government leaders. But when that certainty was questioned with a direct counter-argument, the response offered little more than dismissing the criticism instead of fully addressing it. In a discussion centered on decisions with enormous consequences, that moment exposed the difference between asserting authority and providing convincing evidence. The focus then moved from political claims to personal experience. A long family history of military service was presented not as a way to seek praise, but to establish credibility on the subject of sacrifice. Generations who had served in major conflicts became the backdrop for a much larger principle. Support for war carries far greater moral weight when those advocating it are willing to accept the same risks for their own families. That idea led to one of the debate's most striking moments as attention shifted to the children of influential leaders and whether the standards applied to ordinary military families should also apply to them. It was a statement that reached beyond a single individual and challenged a broader pattern in political life. Short clips may capture the headline, but they rarely reveal the reasoning behind it. The discussion was only beginning, and the next stage expanded far beyond one controversial remark, moving into a wider debate over military alliances, international responsibility, and the future role of NATO.
Spouting a theory.
Yeah.
It may be right, but it doesn't jibe with what my information flow is, because as I said, Trump didn't want this military action. It wasn't his arrogance that, oh, I kicked Venezuela's butt, so now I can do the same thing to Iran. I mean, he would have told me if you wanted it. That's what we would have discussed, how to go about it militarily. That's not what we discussed. It was how to get a deal. So going forward, here's how I see it. Iran's going to have to make a deal because Trump's not going to stop. And if he has to lose the midterms, he'll lose the midterms. Remember, he didn't have to run again, okay? He's not stopping. He's not going to say, oh, we lost, ever. That's number one. So the deal is going to look like Iran will allow weapons inspectors in, probably from the UN, to examine what's going on with the nukes. They'll stop enriching, and they will destroy their ballistic missile capacity, which is already almost destroyed. So we're only talking about a few missiles, not many. Okay, in return, there'll be more favorable economic treatment for Iran on a rebuild basis. Trump knows he's not going to get regime change, so that's, you know, he can saber rattle on it, but that's not going to happen unless the Persian people rise up. And, you know, with these people gunning you down in the street, you know, you're a student of history, a little bit, Piers. In 1945, when the Russians were coming in from the east and the Allies coming in from the west to Berlin, the German people didn't rise up against Hitler. Nobody rose up against Hitler in Germany because the SS would shoot you down in the street. It's the same thing going on in Iran. So likely, and I think within a space of a couple of weeks, this thing will cease and some kind of an arrangement will be made so that the mullahs can tell their people they didn't lose and Trump can tell his people they won. We won. America won. That's what's likely to happen.
Bill O'Reilly, I will invite you back in 2 weeks' time and we shall see.
If I'm not deported, I may be in Portugal.
You know what? You'll be even nearer to me, Bill. Get on a plane to London.
Yeah.
Great to have you.
We're coming to England at the end of May, and you're gonna do an interview with me. I'm telling you, you're gonna do, or I'm coming to your house.
Done.
About this Muslim intrusion.
Yeah.
On London.
Let's talk about it.
Okay, so you're in, right?
I'm happy to talk about that.
All right. Excellent. We'll set it on up. Thanks for having me on the program.
And I'd love to see you on the set of Uncensored while you're here. It'd be great.
Okay.
Bill, great to have you. Thanks very much. Well, Jesse Ventura is a former US Navy SEAL, a former professional wrestler, a former actor, and a former governor of Minnesota. We've had many memorable interviews over the years. I'm pleased to say he joins me again now. Jesse, how are you?
I'm doing good, Piers. It's been a long time for you and I. I tried to retire, but, well, I tried to retire, but unfortunately, they sent the Gestapo to my high school and they hit it with chemical weapons, which are a war crime. And that brought me back out of retirement to stand up against the war criminal in the White House.
Wow. Well, that sounds suitably dramatic.
Well, that's the way it happened. I mean, I was retired. I hadn't watched the news since the last election. My son said, "You're way better, Dad. You're not tense anymore. Keep it up." And then lo and behold, these ICE characters, I call them the Gestapo, and I think I can do that. And let me get something straight right now, Piers, so people know where I'm coming from. My Uncle Emil fought in World War I. My parents both fought in World War II. My father had 6 bronze battle stars in Europe. My mother was a nurse in North Africa, which predated Normandy, fighting Rommel, the Desert Fox, the greatest German general. Both my parents were World War II veterans. My brother and I are both Vietnam veterans and member of the Navy UDT SEAL. We both did 2 tours to Southeast Asia. So everyone in my family is a war veteran. I wanted to get that out right now so it'll help with the things that I'm going to say to you in the moments to come.
So ICE agents came to your school, you said?
What's that?
You said the ICE agents came to your school?
Yeah, the ICE agents came to the school where I went to high school, chasing some guy down just like the Gestapo. And I heard people were offended calling them that. Really? I can tell you right now, if my parents would have been alive and they would have seen what happened in Minneapolis, they would have called it the Gestapo too. So they come to my school, they use tear gas and pepper spray at the school. Now here's a question I have, Piers. My Uncle Emil fought in World War I and he was gassed. He came home, but his life was ruined. He could never do anything. What did they do? They outlawed it. Gas using chemical weapons became a war crime. Why is it that you can't use them on your enemy, but you're allowed to use them on your own people? That has always been, where is the media on this? You know, using chemical weapons against our own people, which is in essence a war crime.
Well, I think I wouldn't describe the gas used by ICE agents as chemical weapons. I mean, that infers weapons of mass
tear
destruction.
gas. They're spraying people from 6 inches away right in their face. I can't use that in war. I wasn't allowed to carry tear gas or any type of chemical weapon in war. It's banned from war. It's considered a war crime. You can't use it against your enemy, but you can use it against your own people. Doesn't something ring wrong there for you, Piers?
Well, a lot rang wrong about what was going on in Minnesota, and I'm very glad that it has been resolved, at least for now. And I think
it
Donald
hasn't
Trump...
been resolved.
Well, no, not
Piers,
completely, but
nothing's been resolved.
No, I understand.
We have 2 dead people here.
Yeah,
2 people were killed by the Gestapo here.
Yeah, I understand. And those investigations are ongoing, but at least the ICE activity that was going on and the way it was being conducted has been removed from Minnesota, which is a good thing. And I thought what happened was appalling. And I said so at the time. Let me ask you about Iran and your view of this war.
Well, here's how I feel about it. There's a simple thing as a leader. And you know this, having been in the military. Trump wouldn't know it because he's a draft-dodging coward. But anyway, it's this. A war is justified if you're willing to send your kids. Because how can you send somebody else's kids to a war if you won't send your own? So I'm calling right now for Barron Trump. Donald Trump's son, after all, he's had 3 wives, he's had kids by each wife, and nobody's ever served in the military. To my knowledge, a Trump in the last 100 years has never done military service. Well, Barron, you can change that. Enlist in the United States military right now. Do something your father didn't have the courage to do. Do something your father didn't have the patriotism to do. I want to see a Trump in the military. Everybody in my family has served, so I think I can say that with all due confidence. Come on, Trumps. Don't just reap the benefits of this free world. Somebody put on the uniform, and that's you, Barron. And I heard the excuse that Barron might be too tall. David Robinson served on active duty. He was 7 feet tall before he ever went to the San Antonio Spurs basketball team. David Robinson went to the United States Navy Military Academy. He's one of my officers, not directly, but he would have been.
Okay, look, it's one argument that a Trump should serve. That's a perfectly reasonable argument to make. A lot of people feel that way. But it doesn't change what's going on in Iran. What is your view of this war? Do you think it's a legitimate war? Many people think that the Iranian regime has been the instrument of terror through the Middle East for 40 years.
Of course they have been. Of course they have been, Piers. But wait a minute. Trump then calls you guys NATO cowards. Wait a minute. NATO is set up to protect. That means that if a NATO country is attacked, they will all join together to repel it. It doesn't go in reverse. It doesn't mean if one of the NATO countries starts a war that all the others have to join in. That ain't part of the deal. The deal is protection, not aggression.
Later in the discussion, the focus shifted from foreign policy to a long-standing controversy surrounding military service. One of the strongest criticisms centered on Donald Trump's Vietnam-era draft history. Public records show that he received 5 draft deferments, 4 because he was a student, and a 5th in 1968 based on a diagnosis of bone spurs. That final exemption has remained the subject of public debate for decades, making it more than a matter of political rhetoric. From that foundation came a broader argument. When leaders make decisions that could send young people into combat, questions about their own relationship to military service inevitably become part of the conversation. Rather than treating the issue as a personal attack, the discussion framed it as one of accountability and responsibility in times of war. The conversation then turned to an earlier prediction that the conflict could be resolved quickly through diplomacy, inspections, and negotiated concessions. But developments since then have painted a far more complicated picture. As the fighting continued, reports of renewed military action, instability around key shipping routes, and statements suggesting the ceasefire had effectively broken down all pointed toward a conflict with no immediate conclusion in sight. That contrast highlighted how difficult it is to forecast the course of international crises with certainty. Confident predictions can age rapidly when events on the ground move in a different direction. For families watching from home, however, the debate is not simply about timelines or political strategy. Every additional week of conflict increases the possibility that ordinary service members and the families behind them will continue carrying the greatest burden. Ultimately, the central message returned to the same principle introduced earlier. The true cost of war is measured not only by political decisions, but by the people expected to live with their consequences. The challenge directed toward Barron Trump was presented as a symbol of that larger argument, rather than its entire focus. Whether people agreed or disagreed with the conclusion, the discussion raised a question that has echoed through generations of conflict. Why are those who authorize wars so often different from those who are asked to fight them? That question lingered long after the debate itself had ended.